Alright. Let's see. Do we have this working? Test 1, 2. It looks like it's working. Alright guys, I'm going to try and do another stream here. Hopefully this is better quality. As you may or may not already know, there's a bit of a war going on between Bitcoin and Bitcoin Cash. And you can see this here. And the price of Bitcoin is now down to 61.55, and the price of Bitcoin Cash has jumped considerably up to 14.30. And this is kind of what I was expecting to happen around the time of the fork, but they called off that fork, and then I don't know. Another guy says no, they're still going to have it. Who knows? But essentially, what is exactly happening here is kind of what happened back in August. If you remember, after the fork, there was a time period when Bitcoin got really, really slow, and the fees went through the roof, and it was really apparent to me that that was a big problem back then. And the entire ecosystem runs on Bitcoin. Like if you go to an exchange and want to buy something, most of the time it's denominated in Bitcoin. If you wanted to buy some Monero, you need Bitcoin to buy the Monero. And that's why I call it the reserve currency. It's also been very profitable for the miners, but part of the argument that the Bitcoin Cash group and Roger Ver make is that Bitcoin was never about being some big profit center for miners. It was about exchanging digital cash for very little fees, and so he has more of an idealistic view of what Bitcoin should be, and Bitcoin Cash is probably more like the original Bitcoin, which has been changed. They've got a block basically of data, and they took information out of that block and put it in a side chain basically, and called that segregated witness, and that is to make more room in this block for more transactions. They do that to every transaction in the block, and now you've got more room to put more transactions in the block instead of just raising the size of the block, which is what they did with Bitcoin Cash. But here's what the interesting thing is watching this happening. This site here called fork.lol has some interesting graphs to it, and here you can see this is those are the blocks. Here's what I want to show you. This is the actual hash rate on a 12-hour average, and you can see the blue line and the orange line have crossed down in this area. And so what we are looking at here is Bitcoin Cash at about 6.72 exahashes and regular old Bitcoin at 3.5. Now I don't know if this is true, but I have seen some discussion that if Bitcoin ever became the minority chain, that it would essentially wilt away and die. And that's what is being attempted here, because really, from I guess the Bitcoin Cash perspective is, hey, we were really the real Bitcoin, and you guys went ahead and did this segregated witness stuff to Bitcoin, and you kept the name and you kept the ticker symbol, and it's the reserve piece that's plugged into everything. But Bitcoin is essentially broken. If you've tried to send anything in Bitcoin today, you'll notice that nothing's being confirmed. As a matter of fact, if we go over here to BTC, and let's refresh this, there's some interesting stats on this page. And I've been watching this for a little while. Like AmpPool, it's not showing here, it's showing a loss of 15%. But just yesterday, this was sitting at like 1400 petahash. I think that's petahash. And now it's down to only 1,000. This has given up some. And this is just in the last 24 hours. If you went back like 48 hours, there was even more losses here. Via BTC is now even less. They're only doing 225 petahash. They've, in the last 24 hours, given up nearly half of their mining power. So miners have left BTC. And so this is kind of what I had been talking about for a long time ago in one of my videos, where you're going to get, this is what I was worried about. You end up with people trying to escape Bitcoin, and the number of miners have shrunk. So that pushes the fees way, way high. And then you also get these unconfirmed transactions. If you look over here where I'm highlighting on the screen, you'll see there's 166,000 unconfirmed transactions right now. Yesterday, well, I don't know, what was it earlier? It was like 160,000 when I did my first live stream earlier. That was all goofed up. Hopefully this one is better. Yesterday, it was like, last night, I want to say it was like 80,000. And then yesterday morning, 24 hours ago, it was 60,000. These are all transactions that aren't being confirmed because there just isn't the processing power. Our hash rate is now down to 9 exahash according to this. And the difficulty will not readjust for the next basically 2 weeks, 13 days and 21 hours until the difficulty readjusts. My understanding of that is that every so often the Bitcoin code, the core code, looks at how fast transactions are going, and it looks at how many computers are processing the transactions, and it says, okay, based on this volume and the price and everything else, it comes up, there's like an algorithm. It comes up with a new difficulty level. It says this should be the optimum difficulty level, and it sets that. And then that's the way it sits for the next 2 weeks. Bitcoin Cash has a difficulty level that changes like every 6 hours, or I'm not exactly sure what the time frame is, but it's very short. So if, let's say, a bunch of miners were going to leave Bitcoin Cash, right, and you only had one miner left, well, in 6 hours it would get really slow, and then in 6 hours the core code would look at that and go, oh, well, we only have one miner, and so we better make this as easy as possible for that lone miner, and it lowers the difficulty to almost nothing, and then it takes off, and then in 6 hours it reevaluates the situation. That's the problem with Bitcoin here, is now it's going to sit here at this difficulty for 2 weeks. And I did a transaction this morning through BitConnect, and this is still sitting here. We have got 3 confirmations now. A couple of hours ago I checked it, and I hadn't had any confirmations on it. So finally, I've received 3 confirmations. That was done this morning. What did it say earlier? About 8 hours ago, at about 6 a.m., and it's already almost 1 in the afternoon. So things are not looking good, at least for Bitcoin right now. But that is part of the war going on here. You're having, let's go back to this one here, and you can see, here's another chart. This shows the hash rate. Now the gold is Bitcoin and the purple is Bitcoin Cash, and it was up here near 68%. It looks like now it's 65% Bitcoin Cash. And imagine this being like a ticker symbol that goes across. Now if it maintains that for a long enough period of time, there is a chance that Bitcoin could go away. It would just there would be no money to mine it. It would be too difficult to mine, and people would say, I'm not messing with that. And you have all these people sitting there with all their Bitcoins and or maybe transactions out there, the 160 some thousand, was it 160? Yeah, 166. That keeps climbing. It'll be 167,000 here in a moment. All those transactions just sit there, and there's no one to process. So this is like a bit of a trap, and one of the things that they'll have to do to Bitcoin, if Bitcoin survives this, is not literally an attack on it. It's the miners who are deciding, well, are we going to mine this stuff or are we going to mine the other one? It's kind of, that's what it is. It's not an active attack on their network. It's just people are going to choose which one is more profitable. The thing that Bitcoin will have to do is put, if it survives this next 2 weeks, is to put code in that reevaluates their difficulty level. Because going for 2 weeks without adjusting for difficulty in a volatile market like this is not a good thing. But at any rate, that's what's going on here. You have, I'm curious, on Shapeshift, this is one way to exchange one asset for another without using Bitcoin. You know, if you wanted to buy Ethereum with BAT tokens, you can do that without having to buy Bitcoin. But this does show, let's refresh this. Earlier, the most popular trade was Bitcoin to Bitcoin Cash. And it also showed a bunch of, it looks like that is changed to Ethereum now. Bitcoin Cash to Ethereum. But you're seeing a lot of alt to altcoins. Some movement into Bitcoin, and more movement out of Bitcoin. Earlier today, this was all jammed up, where these had been over an hour ago for someone to go from Bitcoin out of this. So my guess is that the Bitcoin core people have been calling up all their buddies and friends saying, bring some servers online, we need more processing power. But I don't know how this is going to work out. I don't know. To me, Bitcoin is broken in a sense. Here, they're saying Bitcoin is only worth 6,000. Bitcoin Cash up to 1,400. And this could go on for a couple of weeks. It'll be interesting to see. Now, I don't know if you have money in Bitcoin, you can try to get it out. You can try and where's actually I need to show you a different transaction. Let me look at this transaction here. There is a way to, I'm going to look up my transaction. Since it has 3 confirmations, I can't. Sometimes on here, at least on BTC, they will have, if there's no confirmations, there'll be a red button here, and that will allow you to actually accelerate the transaction for an additional fee. You could try that if you have a transaction that's stuck. You could try that option. It only appears if there have been no confirmations. But you know, one of the things that also has kind of bugged me about Bitcoin, I'm going to look at this address here, and if you go through here, these are old transactions, and you see 94 confirmations. Do we really need 94 confirmations for every transaction? That seems like a lot of waste. 169 confirmations. 169, 170 confirmations. 173. Wait, let's keep going. Whoa, 2,682 confirmations. 2,700 confirmations. 12,417 confirmations. This is something I don't like about Bitcoin. Do we really need that many confirmations? 14,000. No, I don't trust you. 14,330 is not enough. We have to do 14,444. You know, this is ludicrous, and you're wasting computer power and resources doing this. So there's room for improvement here. 15,000, 18,000, 21,000 confirmations. That's just a waste of processing power. I'm assuming what that means is that it's not checking probably every transaction that many times, but as it goes through and works backwards through the chain, I suppose that's what happens. So every time something gets done on one and gets and flowed back through, it gets hit. So that's probably how this works. But this seems inefficient to me. But at any rate, if you have stuck transactions, that is one way to use the accelerator. I wish I had an empty transaction to show you. But this has been interesting to watch and see what's been going on here. I'm not even sure this is working correctly, but hopefully this live stream is better than the last one. The last one was absolutely terrible. So you may try this shape shift if you've never tried this before. It's actually also built into the Exodus wallet. It allows you to, you know, select something that you want to get out of. Maybe it's Bitcoin, and maybe you want to get into something else like BAT. And you can go ahead and do this. You can do it inside the wallet, or you can do it on the website here. There are other ones. I think Changely is another one. I don't know if I have this right. My internet's been slow today. So it is Change LLY. I have just one small amount of Bitcoin. I don't really have anything stuck in Bitcoin right now. So if you do and you're freaking out, I understand why. Yeah, here it is. Their site is probably hammered as well, as people are trying to get rid of stuff. So they change a few assets here as well. I'm going to change Bitcoin to Ethereum. I'm not sure how they compare rate-wise with Shapeshift. The website is still... So Bitcoin, US dollar, I wonder where you can exchange the dollar. Ethereum, Monero, Zcash, Dash, Ripple, and Steam. It's an easy way to get Ripple right there. If you wanted to get Ripple or Monero or Zcash, they actually have some good, those are all good coins. So this is an option you can try. At any rate, all right, I'm going to see if this live stream worked better. That's all I got today. Thanks. Later.